Let's Talk Kashrus, presented by the Kashrus Awareness Project in conjunction with Torah Anytime. Today I am joined by Rabbi Mordechai Stareshefsky, Rabbinic Coordinator with OU Kosher. So today we want to focus on one of your expertises, which is baby formula. Many people, from asking around, it's interesting, people are not so well versed. Some people go into the store assuming that any baby formula, as long as it looks fairly innocuous, they could just pull it off the shelf. I'm sure you hear that all the time. So give us a basic guidance as far as, let's start with the powdered formula. If someone goes into the store, are there formulas that are more acceptable than others, and what are the parameters?
So it's interesting. There's two main baby formula companies. One is Abbott, which sells formula under the Similac
Which
brands.
was actually in the news quite a bit because of the shortage, right?
Yeah. That plant in Sturgis. I was actually at Abbott headquarters this week out north of Chicago. Abbott Park has 14,000 people working in this complex.
Wow.
They're a huge organization. One of what they do, about 25% of what they do, is Abbott Nutritionals. Mm-hmm. And that's where Similac, Ensure, some less well-known products, Glucerna, Pediasure they do, Pedialyte, etc. Then there's Me Johnson, who does Enfamil. That's about 90% of the baby formula market in the U.S. is controlled by these two companies. All of their products, which are eligible to be kosher, are beer the OU. OUD, and some are OUDE. Maybe we'll get to that soon. There are some smaller baby formula brands. There's Nature's One, Babies Only, in Ohio. There's By Heart, the new one that just got entered the market. But these are like, Zakat and Gadol year. They hope to get bigger, but these are really the two main ones. What's interesting, and then there's the store brands. The store brand companies, that's done by Perigo, PBM. One's in Vermont, one's in Ohio, two plants, and that really covers the market. Recently it's been very stable for a long time, all certified by the OU, and the consumer goes in, you really didn't even have to check that much.
When you say all certified by the OU, you're talking about even the smaller brands?
Yeah.
All the brands that you mentioned.
All baby formulas sold in the U.S.
In the United States?
Up to today is certified by the OU.
I think that's a fascinating fact right there, right? That's pretty interesting. Okay, so now typically someone's going into a supermarket, and what do they have to know, if anything?
So first thing is, like we tell everybody, regard to any product, check for the OU. Make sure the OU is there. And
so they all have the OU on the packaging?
All have the OU on the packaging, either OUD or in the case of soy-based formula, such as Enfamil Prosobi, soy, and Similac Isomil, also the soy in there, is DE. It had been Parav once, it's DE now. We're very much actively working now on getting it back to Parav.
Now, DE means that it was made on dairy equipment, so it was made on machinery that ran a milchig run.
Milchig and Cholv Stam.
And Cholv Stam.
So even for Napanat people, big deal. It's milk, and now it's that. It's for those people that won't accept Cholv Stam, or Cholv companies, like Moshe says, on Cholv Yisrael, the name it's Isser, that would be an issue for them potentially. They have to ask their Rov what the level of
Actually, there might be a difference between if you hold that Cholv Stam is mitzad Isser or Cholv companies, like Reb Moshe, where it's not mitzad Isser. Necessarily, there might be a difference as to whether you'll be concerned about DE. But
very much so, right? That would be not that Torah.
It's a whole separate
according to Mechaber, it's mutter and gansin. The Ramah holds it's only mutter, but the Eved, even if it's mixed together, one of the most common questions we get: soy milk, almond milk, DE.
Why is it DE?
Not
right?
DE. They get a D because it's done in the dairy companies, and but there's no milk in there. Very common question. Somebody took it and mixed it together with that milk, with that chicken, with that meat. They cooked it together. Now it's D. What should I do? Well, should I call up in a panic? So when I don't answer the phone that much. When I answer the phone, I said, "Are you Sfaradi or Ashkenazi?" I said, "What is that?" If you're Sfaradi, it's mut l'chadchil. You can pour it in and do it. If you're Ashkenazi, then you shouldn't do it l'chadchil. But once you did it, mutter to eat it. Of course, the kelim are mutter, etc. So that's DE again, without having the problem, the issue of Yisur Bala.
Okay.
So it had been up until COVID, or really up until the baby formula shortage you mentioned before, with the Sturgis plant, the largest plant actually in the Abbott network, and I think in the whole entire baby formula network worldwide was shut for a few months. That caused terrible shortages. We all read about it in the news. I knew that a little more personally because the heart-rending stories, and they were literally heart-rending, heartbreaking.
Heart-rending in the fact that there were people literally didn't have formula for their children?
Correct. So when it comes to a regular, healthy child, he doesn't need the metabolic specialty formulas. Say that you're able to get. We're never down to zero. It's 30% capacity, 35%.
Because they don't need the specialty item, let's say a hypoallergenic type of formula.
Right, even not for hypoallergenic, for cow's milk allergens, but for people born with severe, and these companies, Abbott and Mead Johnson, their focus, of course, is their business to make money, but they always have a special focus on even the rarest case of a birth defect, which maybe affects only 1,000 children a year. They would develop a specialty formula for that child, and they have to have it. And if people don't have it, the baby will literally not survive. And I'm not to speak for what the government did. The government shut it down, argue about it, politicize it. Either way, once the plant was shut down, Sturgis, this plant actually makes all these metabolic formulas. But translated that once there's a shortage in the market, so the FDA told these companies, not just Abbott, Mead Johnson, Perrigo, the store brands, focus all on the greater good. So don't do so many changeovers. These companies do changeover. It can be a 50-hour changeover, cleaning.
Between different
types, especially the hypoallergenic, especially those types, you really have to clean it out. So they told them leave that and just focus on getting as much baby formula out there.
Onto the market.
And that to hundreds of children who didn't have what they needed.
Really? Wow.
Terrible. Breaks the
That's
heart.
so interesting how in your role from a kashrut standpoint, you were exposed to that very human element. So it's just an interesting insight.
Yeah, there was somebody actually, a baby came home from the hospital. The mother was terminally ill, and the baby was as long as the baby was in the hospital, the baby was able to take this special type of formula which the baby needed. The baby got home, they gave some powder. The powder they had, but the liquid version they did not have. There was none to be had in the store. Somebody called me up. I was able to put them in touch with somebody at one of these companies, a very high up person. It really touched the heart. They sent out 5 cases the next day.
Really?
Literally saved the baby's life.
Wow.
Baruch Hashem.
Wow. Megalgalin Schos Al Yedei Zaka, you were able to be the enabler. Now, so just to clarify, is there any difference between the powder and liquid versions of these various formulas? And is there any difference between the brand names, which you mentioned, and the store brands?
So no difference either one. There might be a difference. Either one puts it a little bit.
In quality?
The quality is going to be the same, I think. I shouldn't speak. I'm not speaking in my role as, I'm not a food scientist, but in my role as what I see as kashrus-wise, it seems about the same. And those are, from a kashrus perspective, from a consumer perspective, all the formulas you see out there are all it's an extremely regulated industry, and they're all very good.
Isn't it interesting? I'm thinking as you're talking, isn't it interesting that there aren't really Hamish brands of baby formula? Has that come up?
Because of one of the companies, Abbott does Ensure. So we presented to them, and I always try, the Tzibur at large would like to have a Chol V'Yisrael Ensure. Ensure is for older people or people infirm, people come with surgery. And
usually supplemental
or
nutrition.
Keep somebody alive. It's a thicker drink and it tastes good. Rabbi Elephant, our COO, went to visit Rav Shach one time. And Rav Shach came in, he said, told the Enikol, bring the mashka, this Ensure.
For real?
Rav Shach lived on Ensure. Rabbi Elephant said afterwards, when people ask him, what is the OU's most famous product? He says, Rav Shach. So 4 bottles of Ensure are guaranteed, has enough nutrients, vitamins, proteins, etc., to keep a person alive. The person can just live on that.
Live on that,
yeah.
Right.
So when it comes to these products, what were you asking again? What was the?
I was asking about a Hamish, Hamish brand.
So I was putting a plug for them to put in Chol V'Yisrael.
Right.
So these people are based in Columbus, Ohio, mostly. So that one of them asked me back, if I would go to the store, super kosher, they call it, why see this Chol V'Yisrael. Let me know what to answer. Finally, we told them that when it comes to ice cream, butter, milk, you have these niche supervisions, niche companies who will arrange for their local community to have these type of butters, etc. Ice cream, yogurt, milk. When it comes to baby formula, Ensure, it's not something which you can whip up in your backyard, in the garage. It's so regulated. It's so much amount of science that goes into that.
So it's so much different than the production of traditional dairy items. That's what you're saying.
Right. So we told them that you, in your role of purveyor and caring about the individual should please,
produce such a thing.
And they're listening. They're
Uh-huh.
not, it's not.
It hasn't been
we
ruled
hope
out
It
yet.
hasn't been ruled out.
Stay
Okay.
tuned. Stay tuned. Uh-huh.
So we're getting back to what I was saying before. Up until that shutdown during COVID and that shutdown, you can rest every baby formula they got, except maybe the ones we'll get to that didn't have a hechsher for a reason. Were all going to be Similacs, and the reason was because even though there are Similac brands and formula as well made overseas, they don't bring those because of regulations of the U.S. regulations, FDA regulations. There were not allowed to import them. Whatever's made elsewhere stayed elsewhere. During the shortage, they relaxed those regulations and allowed them to bring in different formulas from plants that were not certified. So we went to certify the Singapore plant and the Mexico
really?
plant, and myself to Singapore. Furthest you can get away from Lakewood.
Wow.
It's a full 180 degrees around the world. You should go further, you're coming back already. And the plane actually goes. One way goes east, west, you circumnavigate the globe.
That was the first time you were in Singapore?
The first and only time. This past summer, they certified the Singapore plant for me, Johnson. And so this currently, there's Similac Total Comfort is made in a plant in Spain. I've been there. I have to go back, but it's not yet all kosher. So we don't put the OU on that. So people should just know when they go to the store, Similac Total Comfort is not yet kosher. It will be, but not yet.
Now, I know that there's something interesting about certain formulas that have this hydrolyzed protein. There are types of formulas that are for hypoallergenic children who need specialty, we'll call it specialty formulas, right? Talk about that. That there is a halachic kashrus concern with that.
Yeah, so the Similac makes Pella, and they take this babies that have a severe cow's milk allergen, CMA, they take the casein. The casein is the protein in the milk, and they put it into a vat with a piece of pork pancreas, actual piece of davar acher in there. It sits there for a number of days until the enzymes in the pancreas hydrolyze. Hydrolyze is just a fancy way of saying to break down and pre-digest the proteins in the milk. After a number of days, they take it, they filter out the chazer, and they just have this now hydrolyzed, pre-digested protein, and that gets put into a secondary, that is the protein which is added. Every baby formula consists of 4 basic components: carbohydrates, a protein, vitamins, and then the oils, the fat blend. So this becomes the protein which is added. And it's on first glance, it's chaza. How can you eat chaza? On the second, if you think into it and if you research it, and we've researched it, I was actually at one of the plants that make it. I brought Rabbi Ganack.
You actually saw the process?
Yeah, I've been there a number of times, but I brought Rabbi Ganack along with me. I said, Rabbi Ganack, come. This is something which is negate the Klal Yisrael. You have to come with me. And he came down with me. There's a plant in Michigan, and we spent a day over there. He agreed that it's based on, I'm not going to go into a whole shir now. I said recently, I presented somewhere, the title was, how can a baby formula with a pig ingredient be kosher? So we're not going to give the whole shir. It's based on two components, two halachic standards, I guess. One of them is that Chanan b'shari surim b'dov alach is shaylim achayis ben Ephraim mechab ben Ramon sadi beis. We paskin, of course, for machmir, but except malkim hefsim meruba. In this case, it's bottle. Without saying Chanan, it'll be bottle, and without getting into all the reasoning and the underpinnings of it, it's bottle without saying Chanan. We're not going to say Chanan in such a case. Also, anybody who's ever dealt with this knows it's a very, very foul tasting, foul smelling.
So it's considered
clearly
nefsal. We say it's nice and down.
Yes, there's different shmoozing about it. Again, it's an arichus, but with the OU, Reb Schwab would actually tell the OU that they should put the OU on it. Reb Schwab held they should put that OU on it.
On this particular
product. It's kosher. It's kosher. Everybody agrees that it's kosher. The question is, it's as a matter of policy, we can't put the OU on something that has chazer in it. I mean, can't do that. We don't want to say the OU is chazer treif, right? But chazer kosher. But it's mutam. I give letters for it they give it at hospitals. People call me up. Of course, it's 100%.
What are the names of those? I know
Similac has a brand called Alimentum, And infant milk has something called nutramigen.
Oh, nutramigen. That's
Now, by the way, if a baby if a baby has such a severe calcium allergen that they can't even tolerate a hydrolyzed protein, then they take something, they build it up from the ground up. In other words, every protein is built with amino acids naturally. So the Eibishter made it. So if the protein is too much for a baby to digest, you hydrolyze it. If even that's too much, then they just take a bunch of amino acids and build it up that way. So Similac is called Elecare. And Elecare was a shmooze, I'll tell you in a second. And Enfamil's brand is called Pure Amino. Now people call up, it says because it says Nutramigen Pure Amino, because the Mee Johnson marketing department feels that Nutramigen is a very famous name.
Right.
So that people call up, it has Nutramigen with the OU on it. I said no, because Nutramigen is a brand name. It's Pure Amino, which is perfectly kosher. It's fine. It has the OU and it's OUD currently. It's DE, of course. No dairy in there, but that's a separate shmooze. Most of them say DE, and we hope to get that one also to be Parav, together with the transition, hopefully. The Mexican plant, and I'm actively working on it. I've been there this year, I'm go back again. The Elecare was interesting. Abbott never wanted to put the OU on Elecare because it would have to say OUD. And the whole point of Elecare is babies that are extremely hyperallergenic, who require a hypoallergenic formula, they'll see the D, they'll get scared off.
Get scared off from a health standpoint.
Right. How can it be D? I don't want anything dairy. So they took it, they never had it. The formulation, it bothered me very much that there were a lot of people who thought it was treif and who didn't want to buy Elecare. So they put it on their website. For those people who look at a website, it says on there, the Abbott website, Elecare, it's under the OU, and they gave the reasoning why, because we don't want to have to write the D. I formulated with them, we have a nusach that says now, OU made with Parav ingredients.
And it says that where?
On every
on the
Elecare
product?
now. It says.
Really?
So it's for every person to realize.
To allay their fears. It's
made with Parav ingredients. Doesn't say D, but it's made with Parav ingredients. It's la fouke. It doesn't. It's made with dairy equipment.
Wow, that's a fascinating background. Who would have thought? So much goes into it. Any final words on this important topic?
So when I've been we just started the ratio. We're up to still have the intermediate. There's so much more to say on this. Very fascinating and important topic. But as a general overview to what we spoke with, the final words is that people should just check when they go to the store to make sure that the product is certified. If it's certified, we take achrayas for it. If it's not, we don't.
Okay. Thank you so much.